Welcome back, everyone. Our first series of the night is complete, and that means we're heading into the final game between Delta Fox and eUnited.
And right, eUnited won game one. It was mostly off the back of LeBlanc pressure. And, you know, it's not often that you see LeBlanc left open. And when it does happen, usually the team has some kind of plan for it, that they left it open. They're going to trick you into picking it. They're going to grab a couple things. But ultimately, Delta Fox played very, very scared of the LeBlanc, basically trying to ignore it and pretend like it's not in the game. And just ran away from it the whole time, not looking like they were prepared for it at all.
Nah, it didn't seem as if Delta Fox really had the plan to deal with it, and by giving up so much ground against it, eventually the game just got blown open by eUnited. Around the 24-minute mark, there's a Baron attempt that winds up going down, but on top of this, eUnited are able to turn and fight.
Right, so eUnited, after starting the Baron, get the flash over the wall by Licorice, who's been pretty impressive so far in the Challenger Series. Delta Fox completely splits up, unsure of what to do. This allows Fox to get the LeBlanc off. He goes in onto Demonte there, gets the first kill, and then the rest of the fight's very scrappy as it's split up on multiple members, but Brandini, trying his best to get a kill, does end up picking Gilius up, but he's going to end up going down later, chased around by the Caitlyn as Fox continues picking up kills. So a very hectic fight overall, but at the end of it, they're going to be able to push up mid lane, and they're going to grab an inhibitor. So this is really what kind of broke the game open the whole time. The LeBlanc was running free, and ultimately this is what finally sealed the deal for Delta Fox.
And you could kind of see it in that replay there as everybody from Delta Fox just kind of running in different directions and nobody was really grouped up together. That's just a playground for LeBlanc at that point.
Yeah, and we saw last week that Fox played LeBlanc and he didn't look great on it. So maybe they were thinking, oh yeah, we'll give it to him again. Kind of the same way we saw happen to Phoenix, but it didn't seem like they had a great plan to stop it. Not only are we going to leave it open because we don't think you're good at it, but then we're going to punish you for picking it too. I didn't see that second half of the plan.
It was more of leave it open and see what we can do with it or against it. But, oh, well, it didn't work out for Delta Fox in the first game. But why don't we reintroduce you guys to the team? Starting on the blue side this time around, it is going to be Delta Fox. In the top lane, it's Brandini. Jungle is Grigney. Mid lane is Demonte. And down on the bottom side of the map is Shinon and Baby.
All right, and on the other side, it is eUnited. In the top lane, Licorice. The jungle is Gilius. His mid lane buddy is Fox. Bot lane is Deftly, and the support is Zazel.
This is going to be an important matchup here as Delta Fox was currently tied for first place, although the people they were tied with, Tempo Storm, they went 1-1 here, so they want to stay neck and neck for that first place spot. They got to tie it up because this gap might wind up closing depending on their performance tonight.
Right. I mean, they still have very long games. Delta Fox does. They're 42, basically 43 minutes in wins and 47 minutes in losses. So pretty long games all around. And Demonte obviously has to step up now because it looked like he was not really able to control Fox and LeBlanc in game one. Going to need a better performance in game two.
Yeah, and over on the side of eUnited, we're starting to see kind of two sides of the team with the EU imports and then the new rookies kind of stepping up. Licorice and Deftly being the ones that had massive performances last week.
Overall, pretty good stuff out of eUnited. The Fox and Gilius synergy, like you're saying, the two European imports, obviously on the same page. A lot of attention goes into the mid lane. But then at the same time, Licorice and Deftly are stepping up, both of them having really strong performances. Last week on Maokai for Licorice, while Deftly was on Ashe. Great games for both of them, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they perform going forward.
They went unkilled in that matchup. This time around, it was a little bit different considering Delta Fox was a little bit too afraid to actually straight up fight them, but it's really going to be interesting now to see with Delta Fox on the blue side, are they the ones that leave open the LeBlanc for themselves if they weren't afraid to kind of leave it open in game number one? They kind of tried to pick the Corki. We've seen exhaust Corki mid lane be the go-to against LeBlanc. They do kind of play a little bit afraid of it in the early stages of the game, but normally once the LeBlanc doesn't get rolling, it's one of those champions that if you don't snowball, you don't do much.
Right. I mean, she still has a ton of damage over the course of the game, but it's not the easiest damage to get in there. You need to get, your passive on people and get the distortion off. You can't sit back and use your distortions defensively while contributing to a team fight. So not the easiest champion to play, and it's a lot easier when you're already ahead, which tends to happen with their strong laning phase. But when that doesn't happen, like you said, not the best champion in the game.
Just ban it out like eUnited. Not even have to worry about it. They want Delta Fox to have it because they know that they won't ban it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Delta Fox might pick it first if the left eUnited was able to grab it on blue side first last time. So this time they're saying we just don't want it in the game, don't want to have to deal with stopping it. We're going to probably do the expected 3 red side bans here. They have already got the Rengar and LeBlanc done. Let's see if they follow up the Camille. On the flip side, Delta Fox banning away the Zyra and Kha'Zix. Pretty common picks to ban away. Sometimes this leads to the Malzahar first pick as we saw last game, and they try to set up a pick comp with it, so Delta Fox might look for something similar, banning away the Jace last.
Yeah, so the Jace does wind up going out, so that means there's a couple of things you could ban out. If you're eUnited, probably wind up banning out the Camille, although it's left open here as the Malzahar gets banned, so now you have an issue if you're Delta Fox. Do you pick the Camille because it's one of the most powerful pickups? We're still in 7-2. No Camille nerfs yet. Still one of the most powerful pickups. You could wind up going with the Rise, which is something Fox has kind of been defaulting to when the LeBlanc has not been available and it has been open. There's Karma. There's a lot of other things left on the table. Varus, very high contested. We didn't actually see Varus in the previous game. I don't know if it was banned away in there. There was a Caitlyn versus a Jhin. Very different kind of AD carry match what we've seen so far.
Right, and we do see that the Camille is first pick. Not too much of a surprise for Delta Fox to grab that. And I'm going to be a little curious on what eUnited is going to be able to grab here on the second picks. They have the Varus available still, which I expect them to grab. But if you're not getting something else out of it, and there's really not too many OP things left available, they do get the Rise, I guess. So we're going to have to see if this trade is worth it. This is a fairly similar trade to what happened in the first game of the night, where it was LeBlanc left open for the Rise and Varus. This time going to be the Camille given away for those two. So it's risky. I don't know. Camille's pretty strong. We'll have to see if they're able to exploit her at all.
Well, a lot of jungle picks have been left open as well. The Rek'Sai is one of them. The Ivern that's going to be picked up here by Grigney from Delta Fox. They still have the response being able to go for the Jhin or potentially the Ashe in this rotation. Karma is one of the more powerful supports that has been left open up here for Delta Fox. So still a lot on the table. Like you did say, this is kind of the 2-for-1 of the non-banned champion trade that United wound up picking up with the Varus and the Rise back-to-back, which they've used quite effectively so far.
All right, we see the Jhin lock-in coming in for Delta Fox, matching the Varus pick. They don't want to get pinched there. What's going to be fairly interesting here is that they do go with a jungle pick, because that means that they are allowing themselves for the Poppy to potentially get banned out. That is the most common counter pick into Camille, and if they don't take a top laner here, it's very easy for Delta Fox to focus that part of the map in their bans.
Well, we've seen Team Gates run Tahm Kench into Camille, which was okay until it got jungle assistance, in which case the Camille then completely spiraled out of control. So that was Quas on that. The Poppy, as you didn't say before, has kind of been one of those quote-unquote counter matchups. There's still a couple of other carry pickups. We've seen Fiora potentially go head-to-head with the Camille. I don't exactly know how that matchup goes in general, but there's still a couple of things, like you did say, by going with this jungle pickup, they do leave themselves open to.
Right, so they end up going with the Elise. They ban away the Cassiopeia now, trying to get themselves a favorable matchup in the mid lane. Cassiopeia is one of the best champions to play into the Rise, so no surprise to see that banned away here, getting rid of some of the counters for their mid lane pick. And Delta Fox now having a decision to make. Do they start banning around that top side? See what they go with.
Yeah, so support is also an area they could pinch. There's the Poppy ban, as you did call out already, saying that that could be the potential counter pickup to the Camille. Karma is the most powerful support left open in the pool. A Corki have been left open for the mid lane kind of counter action. That's one of the stronger picks as well. Does still leave things like Orianna open, but we've known that Demonte has been willing to play that when he played it in game number 1. Maybe not the most effective usage of it, as he was very afraid of the LeBlanc, but something about that pick they do not want to go against.
Right, I mean, if you go with the Corki pick and you grab a Hex Drink early, it can be a little annoying for the Rise to deal with, not quite able to bully the lane as hard as he would want to, so get rid of that, as well as a comfort champion. Delta Fox getting rid of the Fiora, like you were saying they might do as well, so now you're basically guaranteed to get the Camille most likely into a tank matchup, but who knows, eUnited, despite the fact that Licorice has looked great on tanks, they might opt for a more skill-based matchup. It doesn't need to be a tank here.
I mean, Maokai, Nautilus are his kind of go-to champions that are left. The Tahm Kench does wind up getting locked in, so maybe Team Gates is on to something here.
Maybe,
or
but
could be a support, I guess.
It could still be support. The support pool was pinched a little bit, so people might be onto their second tier of champions, Tahm Kench being one of those potentially. But I gotta say, if it is the Tahm Kench top, I'm a little hesitant on it, because while it does work decently in lane, the Camille doesn't really abuse it. You might even say you have pressure at certain points, but it's not like you're going to completely negate the Camille at all points in the game. You do have the W Devour to take your teammate out of her ultimate. That's basically the limit of what you're doing to the Camille to frustrate her.
And that's also why you might wind up seeing it picked up in the support role. Like, if that's going to be the biggest contribution you have to a team fight, you want something like a Maokai. You want something else that can provide some sort of additional peel or utility for the team. It does look like that Delta Fox, though, are going to respond by picking up the Karma. The one support that's left open in the pool that seems to be one of the most powerful, and Aurelion Sol picked up for Demonte. We haven't seen that all too often besides from CLG.
Right, it's been a bit of a pocket pick. Still clearly very strong if you know how to use the champion. He's extremely heavy on the roams. You make a lot of plays early. It can be extremely useful for snowballing a part of the map, say maybe like where you got a Camille. So it could work there. You might see a lot of pressure around the top side. And just generally, it's a strong champion in the early games. If you get rolling, it can take over the game. But once again, if you fail to, it ends up not doing a ton of damage. Its build path is pretty tanky. And then we see the last pick being Renekton.
So speaking of characters that if you don't get going in the early game may just fail later on. Renekton is kind of the king of that mantra.
Right, and going up against the Camille in particular, a champion that scales and becomes extremely dangerous over the course of the game. If the Renekton doesn't have things go his way early, it could be a very, very bad match for eUnited here.
Yeah, that's something I haven't seen all too often. Renekton in general, and just kind of a matchup that isn't a tank versus tank matchup. Something that when we say, hey, these guys are in the top lane, we can't really expect much, we'll be wrong.
Right, I mean, I think Marin picked it in the top lane LCK, Renekton into Fiora, some kind of carry matchup, but he got killed early. Got visited by the enemy team, which might happen for eUnited because, I mean, you have that early roam out of the Aurelion Soul. If you can bait a fight on the top side, Renekton goes in, uses his slash and dashes all over the place, then guess what? No escapes. So the top lane will be extremely volatile, most likely.
And we'll have to see where Licorice goes with his item build as well. Lethality's been buffed. Renekton liked building armor penetration items. Black Cleaver is one of those staple items on him. Potentially going for an Edge of Night or something like that. Of course, he wouldn't be nearly as tanky. He's got a Tom Kench to provide a little bit of that for himself, but that's all speculation. I'm just kind of excited to see the difference in picks here. We had Ivern come up into now basically almost every game we've seen tonight, whether it be a pick or a ban. We have the Tom Kench support, Renekton, Aurelion Soul. I love Challenger.
I'm surprised you didn't correct me on the Renekton E's name. I call this slash and dash, slice and dice, tomato, potato.
You were close enough.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was ready for you to correct me. I was like, all right, here it comes.
I was too excited to correct you on such a minute thing.
I'm totally getting the name wrong.
I never correct you on anything detail-oriented in League of Legends.
That's because you don't know anything.
Like Santa Brom.
Yes. Lobster Fisherman Brom, you mean?
You're just lucky they don't use ward skins in competitive play here.
I know, that's something that always threw me for a loop. But we see Gilius going for his red buff to start. They did get a ward on the top side. Blue buff for Grigne, so they're going to be able to see that he's starting there.
Both of these junglers off to fairly, well, I was going to say fairly standard starts, but it's never really anything standard when you see an Ivern on the opposing side of the map. He has, like you mentioned already, very interesting jungle patterns, and we'll keep our eyes on Grigne to see where he's going to wind up going. If he decides to do the clear of his own jungle, or if he decides to get a little bit pushy and invades on eUnited side, as we see some early trades going down on the bottom side. Just Karma and Tom Kench just taking a couple shots at each other.
Right, and another thing, of course, we talk about how important the top lane is going to be. Obviously, the mid lane will be very influential as well. Not because one of them is going to get really, really aggressive, but because Aurelion Soul is going to want to push and then be able to move somewhere on the map.
One of them's going to leave.
Right, exactly. They're not there to battle each other. They're there to get onto the map. So we see already Aurelion Soul pushing in the first two waves, getting out onto the map, going to drop a ward onto the blue buff of eUnited, spot out the Elise there, and going to be able to keep her tracked down this whole early game, hopefully.
And not only that, but the Aurelion Soul threat, just him putting down additional vision, putting down additional pressure, will open up different sides of the map for the Ivern if he chooses to get a little bit more aggressive and steal away some of the jungle camps or befriend enemy jungle camps, as Ivern will do. But Damonte on this Aurelion Soul is something we haven't necessarily seen him on in the challenger scene yet. He's been very content to go for more of the standard mid lane pickups. Corki's kind of been his go-to champion. This is a very different style of champion. Still has a decent amount of wave clear like a Corki. Still has the roam potential of the Corki, but a little bit more fragile.
Right, and there was a fair amount of focus given to the mid lane bans there, so it's not too surprising to see him forced onto a little bit different of a pick now. And the Aurelion Soul is one that can surprise a lot of people if they're ending up banning away a lot of your champions. We saw, you know, you referenced a little bit already. He has such a diverse champion pool that he pulls a lot of Aurelion Soul bans, but then when they try and focus his more basic stuff, he's able to grab it and make big plays.
We'll see if Damonte can put his best Huhi cosplay on this game. Has gone back extremely early, has Corrupting Potion in addition to his Dark Seal. Also had a Control Ward that he wound up putting down that United Gilius was very happy to just take away. But on the bottom side of the map, there's an Ivern. And then our brushes is definitely in Zeyzal to be a little bit careful. Definitely walks up, does want to getting rooted. The chain CC comes down, but there's a Tom Kench support. Just devour that AD carry and walk him out.
Right, I mean, you could kind of see that coming. Zeyzal felt the pressure down the ball lane. He was hanging back behind his AD carry, definitely ready to go save him if he ended up overextending while putting that ward down. And they're able to get out with just a small trunk. Not too bad, though it does hurt to end up down in health in that lane matchup.
You see both of the top laners utilizing their teleport to get back to lane after kind of just shoving it out in each of their own favor. Renekton goes back, picks up an early cloth armor, whereas Camille, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more dangerous, has gone back and picked up double Doran's blade. Is now Brandini going to use the hook shot. Does get stunned up by Gilius as he goes in to try to jump away. Does wind up having to burn his flash for that as well.
Right, not quite on the same page, not able to stun chain the Camille with the Renekton W after the cocoon had hit from Elise, able to flash away there, and then a little bit of miscommunication as Gilius felt like he might be able to secure the kill, flashed after the Camille, and unable to actually get the kill. As we see, once again, the pressure from Delta Fox's bot lane is a little oppressive. As soon as they hit the Karma Q, the Jin W follows and forcing Zeyzal into using his heat defensively. So
Licorice uses the slice, gets out with the dice, and is able to get himself out of there as Grigney was waiting in that brush. A little bit more damage coming down. The Aurelion Souls roamed up. There was a flash used as well, and the star did come out. Didn't wind up stunning anybody up, and Damonte takes a lot of damage for that roam.
Right, I mean, that was a good idea overall, trying to force her on the top side. We mentioned that this would be the focus of both these teams. We've already seen junglers pay visits up there. Unable to actually get any kills, though, and here the Aurelion Soul roam, unable to actually get anything, got very, very low, close to going down. His flash was lost as a result as well.
Yeah, he tried to use that one to position the stun, did not wind up working out for him. So the first roam for Damonte is a swing and a miss. The bottom side of the map, though, definitely has kind of been being bullied around. This double range bottom lane going up against the range and the melee. Sure, Zeyzal's been able to kind of save him from a little bit of harm's way, but he is slowly but surely falling behind in CS. Both of them most likely going for a more lethality-oriented build. Started with the longsword and 3 health potions. Definitely's already burned through all of his. Shinon still has 2 of his own biscuits.
Right, I mean, laning phases in general going in favor of Delta Fox. We see that they have the advantage in the bot lane. The mid lane, though it is pretty close, the Aurelion Soul has roamed a lot, gotten a lot of wards down. You see the vision control generally in the favor of Delta Fox, so things going all right, but they would have liked to have gotten a kill at this point. I'm sure both teams would have.
Anybody could usually get a kill. Is Fox going to get aggressive on Damonte? Winds up rooting up with some Rune Prism damage. Gets a couple of pot shots on him as things have settled down, at least for the time being. Renekton himself had gone back, picked up an additional Doran's Blade for himself. Camille went back, picked up a long sword. One of them has a piece of cloth and 2 swords. The other one content with wielding 3 swords, 2 of them attached to her legs. Although Gilius gonna make his presence known in mid lane, although he's not necessarily trying to push anything out. They really do want to kind of keep pressure on that Aurelion Soul, though, because he's already shown the pretense to roam, tried to go up top, didn't get something going on, but they do want to kind of keep him bottled as much as possible, or at least keep eyes on where he's going to be.
Right, well, it looked like Gilius wanted to get onto the top side of the map as soon as he could. Did not want to have to deal with being stealthy through the mid lane. I mean, that's why they're trying to get a dive onto the top side. Brandini gets CC'd up. He is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he got stopped through that hook shot because of the Rune Prism. Only level 5, doesn't have the ultimate to really do anything, so he will go down for first blood over the Fox, but Aurelion Soul has lined up and stunned them up. Gilius ticking down, will barely survive. Health Potion helps him stay alive through that one. Grigney and Damonte not super healthy, but Daisy is getting a little angry. The knock-up and the stun. Licorice, his health bar is ticking extremely low as well. 2 members of eUnited go down super low, but a flash out from Licorice. It's a 1-for-0 first blood to eUnited.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising to see the fact that Delta Fox wasn't 100% ready to defend that play. As we see, Grigney might not be done yet. He's looking around the river, though. There's more people there than he thought there'd be.
Yeah, the root color goes out, but it winds up getting dodged away by the Elise. Grigney does wind up getting stunned up himself, but he will not go down. But Daisy, the receiving end of a smite.
She was always getting smitten.
Smitten?
Smoked.
A lot of people are smitten by Daisy. Ivern in particular.
Well, so what I was saying is that surprised me as we see a dive potentially coming in the bot side here.
Damonte was just top lane, and now he's made himself known in the bottom lane. This is why we said we need to keep track of what that Aurelion Soul is going to be. He utilizes his stun, burns a teleport out from Licorice, but a flash did have to be used by Baby to get him out from underneath that tower aggro. So although they weren't able to convert into a kill, that's a summoner spell blown, a very important one with the teleport from Renekton.
Right, and Camille was in trouble because she lost a massive wave into that top turret as a result of that top dive. So as we see now, they go over the wall, they flash, they get onto Brandini, and Gilius had ran through the mid wave to start this dive off. So they should have been in a little bit better position to defend against this. Ultimately, they are able to finish off Brandini, and then despite how low they all go, Damonte and Grigney are unable to actually finish anyone off during the course of this fight between the 2 top turrets. And that's a big problem for Delta Fox, because as much as, you know, you are scared of a Camille, she is relatively shut down now. Down 10 CS is probably going to get a little bit worse as this wave gets into the turret.
Delta Fox playing a little bit more aggressive than last game, at least. There's no LeBlanc on the map, so their Kryptonite is gone. Although the movements from eUnited in the early stages of the game, we talked about the synergy between Fox and Gilius. These are the 2 guys played together on Schalke. They were a big focus of the first 2 weeks from eUnited, and they are the ones that are making these happen on the map. Fox's biggest game had been when Gilius was on Kha'Zix and he was on Ryze. They give him the Ryze again. They give Gilius with another bug. This one has CC this time around, and they're able to get stuff done on the top side of the map.
Right, gonna be interested to see where Delta Fox looks now to turn things back into their favor. Could be hard to focus around the top side when that was seemingly their initial focus. They can potentially look to make a dive bottom, which they did just a second ago when they got the TP out, and they do have the TP advantage now, so I think that's gonna be what they look for. So there is some vision for eUnited to see this coming.
eUnited are on the bottom side of the map. Ocean Drake looks to maybe be the focus, although there are a lot of pings going down on Gilius. Root Collar will not land, but it does wind up forcing a flash out from Gilius.
It's kind of surprising to see him get cut out there, given that they had the rivers warded pretty well up there. So a little bit of mispositioning there for Gilius. He loses his flash as a result. But Delta Fox still not able to actually get anything done as Brandini opens up a little bit onto Licorice. Nice little trade there.
Little trade using the hook shot for a stun, get a little bit of trade damage down, but definitely, once again, has to be gobbled up there by Zeyzal. This CS advantage that was minor, it's bloomed into about a 22 CS advantage as Fox trying to move down towards that blue buff. Is going to wind up getting locked up here. Does have to burn his ghost to get out of that. Flash was unavailable. But now Delta Fox, they're not converting on any of these kills, which is the downside, because they really could wind up using the gold to get back from that first blood. But they are slowly accruing advantages. They have wards down on the bottom side. They have CS advantage on the bottom side of the map. They're playing to that side of the map. Brandini already got ganked and killed for first blood. They're rotating around and saying, all right, let's focus on the bottom side then.
Right, as we see Grigne swinging mid onto Fox here, hoping to catch him out in the mid lane.
Well, he's got no summoner spells. He's got a lot of damage to take down Daisy, though. Root Collar will not land. So Grigne will not be able to convert on that one, but still continuing just to bully around eUnited off his side of the map.
Gilius rotating up to the top side, looking for another dive onto Brandini as Licorice escorts the wave in. Once again, Grigne moving up there, hopefully going to try and cover it, but it might not be enough.
Ooh, the sweeper does wind up seeing the ward, so Brandini knows somebody's there. Gilius is going to blast plant himself out of there, so no gank convert on the top side.
And this is the problem because Delta Fox does have TP advantage, but they only have about another 40, 30 seconds to get anything done with it before eUnited is able to get up and match it. And it's an interesting game where both teams have champions who don't scale super well into the late game. Renekton being the one obviously on the side of eUnited, and Aurelion Sol being on the side of Delta Fox. He's never quite as bad as the Renekton in terms of late game damage, but still not the ideal mid lane champion either. So both these teams feel a little bit of pressure to make plays.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, they have not been able to use that teleport advantage. Camille, unfortunately, being the one to teleport, being behind, has not been able to capitalize any sort of advantages. Although Grigne and Brandini, now both of them hopping over the wall. Elise going to be able to repel, denies the Hextech ultimatum from being cast, but Gilius is going to wind up going down still, and that's a much-needed kill picked up by Brandini.
Right, he lost his flash in the bot river, initially not available still to get out of that situation. And as nice as it is to dodge the ultimate of Camille, you're still going to come down in the same spot. It's like it went off anyways, and then you repel. You just dodge a little bit of damage.
It looks fancy. You deny us from saying the Octagon, which is, I guess, pretty
Yeah, I'm not happy about that, actually.
Yeah, actually. Fox is going to get stunned up the mid lane here. It's Demonte here. Grigne, though, going to wind up rooting him up. Yep. Ultimate comes out from Demonte, roars back to flash out of Fox. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Licorice trading back and forth with Bandini. Delta Fox, to capitalize on one play, they're starting to make some moves on other sides of the map now.
Right, but they're still down 1,000 gold, mostly off the back of the top, mid, and jungle CS discrepancies. Bot lane is in favor of Delta Fox. Not much happening despite that. There's been a lot of fights, not too many kills.
One of the things that's interesting is Brandini is opting to go for the early Jarm's Fist, which signals that you may be wanting to go for something along the lines of like a Titanic Hydra, although getting this kill assist or actually the kill gifted over to him here as they did turn on the Gilius. You saw the repel denying the Hextech ultimatum. Like you said, what goes up must come down no matter where he is. But much needed gold over onto the side of Brandini, who, like I said, kind of has built the budget parts of his Titanic Hydra first off, and now being in a little bit of trouble. Waits on the hook shot, utilized it over to Gilius, but he's going to be taking that one up. The redemption is out from Ivor, and the flash wave from Brandini is going to keep him alive, but there is a Realm Warp coming in from the mid lane. Fox has now joined the fray. Brandini has to be forced away from his own tower. The slice and dice is going to be coming up in just a second. The hook shot gets him to a wall, does not get him over it. There's no flash available, but it looks like he is going to wind up going down.
I mean, you see the amount of attention that eUnited is giving over to this Camille pick. They have a very clear plan of what they wanted to do to shut it down. The amount of times Gilius has walked behind this turret to set up a dive is pretty crazy. As the fighting continues on the top side, Demonte getting CC'd up. He's going to be forced to flash away. Yes, Delta Fox really can't contest this push. They're most likely going to have to go up this turret here.
Well, eUnited last game had a LeBlanc. Delta Fox played super afraid of it. This time around, Delta Fox has a Camille. eUnited are playing straight into it as they continue to push down that top lane. First tower blood goes down in their favor. They pick up a kill onto Ivern. A teleport being channeled. Actually, Camille's going to come in and finish off Fox. So eUnited might be sticking around a little bit too long for this one. Brandini, no flash available. Is going to wind up trying to chase after Gilius. Does repel over to the Scuttle Crab. Hookshot not available in enough time. Elise will get out.
Overall, intelligent plays from eUnited. A little greedy there as they finish off the turret, trying to get a little bit more onto Demonte. Leads to Fox's demise and forces his teammates to run away. But you see the plan that they have in terms of camping the hell out of this Camille. I mean, we talked about how in the first game, the way Delta Fox didn't really have a plan for dealing with the LeBlanc. Clearly, eUnited had a plan for dealing with the Camille that they decided to leave up. And they are punishing it fairly hard, though the mistakes keep giving it kills back.
And this is after the Camille has already gone down. This is eUnited continuing to push their 3 versus 2 man advantage on this top lane with an already low tower from all the pressure they've been putting on Camille.
Right, and after they pick up this kill, it's fairly easy for them to back away. They finish off one more onto the Ivern, and then I don't know why Fox has been running forward this whole time. After that kill, they easily could have backed away.
Yeah, Fox getting a little bit too excited for that one, as Gilius will have a nice cocoon to stop the Aurelian Soul, a nice repel to get out from the slow coming out from Camille. And so they trade back 1 kill, so a little bit sloppier than it could have been. They could have potentially gotten those kills and just gotten their way out with the tower, but still, gold advantage in the favor of eUnited. Now they're going to be able to swap up their bottom lane duo, who has been one of their losing lane matchups here against the bottom lane of Shinon and Baby. They move them into the middle side of the map. That puts Fox into that long lane on the bottom, has the realm warp and gets into a sticky situation. But Licorice stays in the top lane here. He's in a long lane himself. The Octagon comes out. It's a 3v1 situation as Daisy comes in from the side. Grigny's going to want to get in the knockup with Daisy there. He will take down Licorice.
Not any vision really in the top side. There's just the tiniest bit in the river. Not able to see the Ivern coming in for the gank. They polish off the Renekton. And in response, eUnited will try and take the Dragon down and continue to push down the mid and bot lane turrets, but a little bit of overextension there by Licorice. And I mean, the Camille is slowly picking up kills, picking up assists, and as good as their plan was for holding down the Camille, their execution has left a little to be desired, and they're not able to actually hold her down that much.
Shanna opens up with the curtain call. Trying to get a couple of shots down. Zazel does wind up saving Deathly, but he's going to be the next target. The Blast Plant comes out. Chain of Corruption does wind up landing onto Grigny, so a disengage comes out as that bottom lane tower will eventually fall. eUnited takes that for themselves.
Right, Fox and Gilius have a small flank here, though. I'll be interested to see if they actually choose to fight this 4v4 with themselves being down HP bars. It looks like they were just given enough pressure to force Delta Fox away from that mid turret.
Yeah, I don't think they want Delta Fox re-putting pressure into the middle side of the map. They did lose a key ultimate with the Chain of Corruption from Varus. Tahm Kench, of course, can devour 1 target, but in a situation where they're kind of split up on the sides like that, not necessarily going to be able to save absolutely everybody, but this is keeping Delta Fox kind of concentrated. The Aurelian Souls not moving up to any other side of the map. Fox has continued to move down to the bottom lane, is pushing that one out on Rise as the continuation of the duo lanes going against each other now in the mid lane.
Right, and both AD carriers, are happy to be in the mid lane, though Varus is generally considered to be the best of them for that option, which just helps the Rise enable his 1-3-1 a little bit more. Ideally, for the side of Delta Fox, they would want the Aurelian Soul in the mid lane getting the push and then being able to roam, but that's really hard to do against Varus, and especially when someone else has to deal with that Rise in the bot lane.
The Aurelian Soul has made his way down there to be the one to deal with the Rise. So we kind of have the same lane matchups, just different places around the Rift as our good friend the Rift Herald makes an appearance in this game. Although, not the Delta Fox, because they can't exactly see it, although they now use the Trinket Ward on it. Nobody's really in the area to kind of stop Licorice and Zazel from doing this, but with that vision being used in the mid lane pushing up in favor of Delta Fox, they decide to rotate down from that one instead, try to get onto Shinon. Gets locked up by the Chains of Corruption. The slice and dice being used by Licorice. They get the stun on the Baby. The redemption comes out. They're trying to keep him alive. Shinon is in danger of being stunned up by Tahm Kench. Has to flash away. Everybody's chasing on to Jhin, and they will pick up a kill. Grigny now being forced to flash out, but he will go down as Fox comes in from the side. A kill goes over to Deathly as eUnited collapse on the mid.
Right, Deathly baits the rest of Delta Fox into trying to collapse onto him, and then Shinon does his best to get out of there. He gets a lot of help from the rest of his team, but they're unable to actually save his life as 2 members go down on the side of Delta Fox, and now eUnited continue to push on this mid lane turret. Brandini walking forward, getting pretty low.
He gets locked up. He tries to lock Fox up in the Hextech ultimatum, but The rest of Delta Fox has to back away. This tower extremely low. United has the health bar advantage. They have some poke on the side of Deathly, who now has a blue buff after that fight. They're looking to take down another tower.
Right, but they have to worry about staying a little too late. Grigne is back up. We see the TP coming in from Camille, who had been healing up. We'll see if they're able to collapse, but it looks like eUnited has decided to disengage.
Yeah, the teleport got used. Brandini was not necessarily behind eUnited, so eUnited will be able to just disengage from that. But that is a good adaptation for eUnited. They originally wanted to get the Rift Herald over onto Licorice, but as soon as the ward was used, they kill it, wait for the vision to fall away, and then they collapse on that vision.
Right, and it looked very scary for a second there where Shinon was going to be able to get away. You see the power of the Ivern being able to keep him alive for such a long time, but, you know, Elise and Renekton can be pretty sticky. They're able to chase him down and get the kill, and then because Deathly was left untouched over the course of that fight after he got chunked out initially, he was able to keep throwing in his piercing arrows and picked up a kill for himself as well.
Well, it looks like not everybody's quite done with this mid lane yet. The rest of eUnited, although they've backed away, they haven't necessarily sent absolutely everybody back, as they will continue to pressure down. And this is what we were talking about earlier, the good kind of rotation, so to say, coming out from eUnited.
Right, Aurelion Sol's in the bot lane dealing with a wave that says, hey, come take our mid lane turret as Ryze deals with the top one. And then here, as we see a huge fight break out, Shinon looks like he's able to get away, but the exhaust slows him up, giving Gilius time to collapse, gets that kill, and then they turn onto Grigne, who is trying to keep him alive. He goes down from just trying to help his buddy out. And then after that, not too much happens.
We did eventually see United taking down that mid lane tower. A little picture-in-picture happened while that replay went down. So they did get the tower eventually. It took a while.
Right.
And now they're kind of set up their own little 1-3-1 situation. The Renekton, we said, not the most powerful pick in the later stages of the game, but now we're at 20 minutes. He's kind of hit his stride. He's got his Black Cleaver. He's starting to build towards his tanky items. The fact that Camille has been kept down in the early stages of the game. She doesn't even have a Sheen yet, let alone completed her entire Trinity Force. Now we see Brandini being left to kind of deal with Fox. The Hextech Ultimatum does wind up getting used. Fox is taking a lot of damage, but Brandini also as well has taken a bit of pain and punishment for himself. Demonte has joined the fray. eUnited and Delta Fox are all kind of collapsing on this top side. Brandini goes over the wall with a hook shot. He's able to shut down Fox, but now Deathly and Gilius have joined the fray. The Chains of Crush can go down to the Gridney. He does wind up blocking up Baby as well. Demonte's on the outskirts of this fight, trying to deal some damage with his stars. Now Shinon's going to open back up with the Curtain Call. Gets 2 shots down on members of eUnited. The Mantra Q comes out from Karma. There's a lot of slow coming down, but the Curtain Call is done. Deadly Florist locks down onto Zazel, but that's a tanky Tom Kench. Couple of pot shots on the back from Deathly. It's a 1-for-none in favor of Delta Fox.
And Brandini played that fight so well, the way he was able to dodge a ton of Fox's abilities. He had his flash available for it, and we also saw the power of Ivern coming in as well, having the redemption, able to heal him up as Shinon gets caught out.
He gets caught out on the backside of this fight. He's going to get the shield up from Karma if the exhaust comes down from Zazel. They're going to give that one over to Gilius, and now overall it's a 1-for-1, but Demonte kind of caught between the wrong side of the map, runs into a Tom Kench ultimate usage there, tries to burst out on the Gilius. The Hextech GLP comes out as well, but a lot of damage being taken by Demonte. Grigny's come in trying to shield him back up, but Demonte goes down.
Just a small overextension by Delta Fox. They win the fight mostly. They think they're fine to be rotating back to their mid lane. They bump into Gilius. He picks off Shinon, and then Demonte coming over to help his buddy out. He gets cut off as well from the usage of the Tom Kench ult. And this is going to open up the Ocean Dragon to be taken by Team eUnited. That's going to be their second one of the game. They got 2 Ocean Dragons now, going to be able to help them deal with any potential poke, as well as the fact that they're a pretty poke-heavy team as well, so they're happy to keep it away from Delta Fox.
Keeping the sustained up is going to give them extra mana regeneration, so that now the Ryze and the Varus are going to do that if they take damage from the Chain CC combinations we've seen coming out from an Aurelion Soul Stun or an Ivern Root Caller and the Jhin follow-up and the Karma poke. Tom Kench can kind of eat that person up, spit them back out in the backlines, and let that double Ocean Drake that they've now acquired kind of just regenerate them up. Delta Fox was afraid to make moves happen in game 1. This game, when they do make things happen, it seems they're maybe getting a little overzealous to some of these chases.
I think sloppy is a better word for it, because it's not like
word.
They're not over chasing. They just after they win the situation, they think they're fine, and then they end up going down off the back of it. So they had that fight in the mid lane where they almost pick off Deathly, and then when they try and disengage, they get punished. This time, you know, Brandini kind of gets caught out. They collapse extremely well to punish Fox, but then on their way back to their lanes, they get picked off. So they just need to clean up their play a little bit.
Monte wants to go in with a stun. Does want to pop in the Ghost Blade from Varus just to walk away from that one. Of course, one of the easiest ways to give up an advantage you've gotten is being caught out by a dragon from across the map with a giant constellation headed your way. Another way is going to be trying to deal with this Camille, who now does have her Trinity Force, so the power has been rebought onto her. Hextech Ultimatum goes down, but Fury of the Sands goes down from the side of Renekton as well, but now Damonte has joined the fray. Hextech GLP has already been used. Is going to wind up using his ultimate, the flash away from Licorice.
Still got hit by the slow, though, so he's still going to be caught out here. Nice slice of Dice.
And Dice comes out. The hook shot was there from Brandine, but at the same time, with 2 members down from Delta Fox on the bottom side, eUnited are starting up a Baron. Definitely taking a lot of damage from it, though. They got it to below 3,000 HP. Oh, Realm Warp is coming out, trying to catch out Shinon. Fox has brought Tom Kench into the fray. They're going to wind up going on to Baby. He will wind up going down, but a teleport looks like it's going to be getting... Actually, a recall was being used. Teleport got canceled by Brandini. They did not want to re-engage that one, so they trade 1-for-1 overall. eUnited almost took a Baron.
Right, Delta Fox had a play that they're trying to force onto Licorice, but he did a good job surviving for a long time. That felt eUnited enough time to try and burn the Baron down, and it got really, really low. It looked like if they wanted to, they potentially could have looked to finish it, but they were scared with Grigne being over the wall, as now Elise is caught out.
Yeah, this is just kind of the dominoes all falling. One after another. Sean takes a lot of damage from Fox. He thinks he can finish off Jin, but he will not. The redemption comes out, and Damonte picks up the kill. Daisy says goodbye to eUnited as she forces them back away.
Gets totally baited by the shields in the Delta Fox comp. They have Karma, they have Ivern, they have Lockets. They have a lot of ways to keep a member alive when he starts getting low. So eUnited not quite comfortable with what they're playing against here, and they keep getting caught out.
Sloppy.
Sloppy.
That's the word.
That's the word.
Both of these teams getting a little too aggressive. Normally we say the terminology they like to use is calculated aggression. This one is
uncalculated.
Sloppy aggression.
Is when you're doing that math homework last minute, it's doing like, you know, bell's about to ring, you just going through, have partial work, you don't care.
It's like when you were like in high school and stuff. I guess when I was in high school, we're starting to use like computers for everything. You come and you see the people who knew you did the homework like at home and did it when they were supposed to on time, had a nice typed up computer one. I was always half ripped up piece of loose leaf paper from the hallway I did it in before.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I knew didn't use computers for their math. That was too hard unless you're using Wolfram Alpha. That was kind of cheating though.
Yeah, that's kind of unfair. Now we're just, that's a blast from the past.
Right. As we see now though, 27 minutes into the game, 5K Goldie for eUnited. Despite the fact that we were talking about how this is a sloppy game overall, they are still pretty significantly in the lead. They do have a fair amount of farm advantages in a couple different positions. And Delta Fox has been struggling to find objectives of their own. Still no turrets down, with eUnited having the entire outer ring down.
Well, when eUnited took the game off of Goldcoin United last week, they had the Nocturne and the LeBlanc composition. They had a very powerful Licorice. They had a very powerful Deathly. They stalled out forever around that Baron pit, and they really needed something to happen in that area. They waited 15, 20 something odd minutes for a play to happen around there. Delta Fox, on the other hand, we saw the statistic before. Second longest average game time, almost 44 minutes. When they lose, it's longer than when they win, but both of those, they usually drag on. They don't necessarily have large advantages when they're getting into those longer sieges. They usually wind up taking it based off of some of those objective fights in the later stages of the game. So while eUnited does have this lead right now, they kind of got to make something happen with it before it falls into what Delta Fox has done previous patterns to win the game.
Right, and the thing is too, of course, those previous games that they had the lead in, it was usually around the tank. Licorice was usually pretty fed, and here he's really not that much stronger than Brandini, despite the fact that he had a little bit more CS. Brandini has more kills and assists, and he's actually able to keep pressure up on the Renekton right now. So it's going to get worse and worse. I think Camille's going to be able to keep fighting him, and both these guys don't really have the tools to beat each other up too hard, as Brandini does open up onto Licorice, so dropping him well below half health.
Yeah, the Octagon may have been faded, but Licorice is still taking a little bit of pain and punishment here. Dodges out on the hook shot right there. The slow will follow after. Now Licorice actually getting the better end of this trade here.
But Aurelion Sol's coming down. He's baiting him in. They're going to get the stun off onto him. Gets the shield proc.
Ooh, the dodges out on the slow. Like you did mention, Damonte has kind of joined the fray, but once again, eUnited are going for Baron while this is happening. The ultimate does get used, but this time Licorice winds up going down early. The Baron has already been started, about half HP. Curtain Call comes out from Shinon. Zazel's tanking it up. There's redemption on the backside. Grigny's trying to get in here with Daisy. 3,000 HP. Fox is in the pit. Gilius has come out. The teleport is in from Brandini. They're going to turn on the Gilius. Once again, the hook shot stun up. Baron will start regenerating, and that's another botch play here by eUnited.
Right, and once again, we see that despite their best efforts to go and try and punish the collapse that came in from Delta Fox, they just don't have enough damage to really burn down the Baron buff, and they get caught out once again. They don't actually get anything done, and now Delta Fox is going to be able to grab their first turret of the game because of that play.
Yeah, they wind up losing out on that tower, so the mid lane tower goes down. A little bit more gold in the pocket of Delta Fox, and that 5,000 gold lead now a 4,000 gold lead. So Delta Fox, and we're just talking about this. The longer the game goes, the more likely it's going to be a Delta Fox game.
Right, but on the other hand, eUnited doesn't look like they're willing to let this game slowly slip away from them. They're forcing around the Baron buff yet again. And they do have the TP advantage now because Brandini did in fact TP into that Baron attempt.
It's true, so if they do wind up sending 2 people down to deal with Licorice again, that means that there's no teleport. So there's going to be only 3 that can contest, and with Ultimate still on cooldown, and a couple members have gone back to base, but specifically that Aurelion Sol. Looks like they're going to be contented to start this one up again. They've cleared out all the vision. The Scryer's Bloom does wind up coming out, so that we'll reveal that the Baron, once again, once it gets to like 3,000 HP, we consistently see eUnited turning off, but they will turn on to Brandini, who's in the front. Hectic Ultimatum gets used, but he's going to get taken down. Now there's no Camille, there's no excess damage. Aurelion Sol's in the backline dealing with a Tom Kent, but Shinon's going to get the Realm Warp on top of him. Grigny will fall on their front line. Fox is going to be charging down on the Shinon, and that snipe kill will come out from Deftly. Now they're going on to Baby. This is going to be a disaster for Delta Fox.
A 4 for 0 for the side of eUnited. A great reforce onto the Baron after the initial attempt had been thwarted. They're able to pick up 4 kills. They had great flanks come in for them. Renekton on the backside. We also saw Ryze as well. Now they're going to be pushing up the mid lane with the creep wave, able to take the inner turret. Not sure how much else they're going to be able to get, though. Looks like they were going to peel back onto the Baron.
If at first you don't succeed, try baiting Baron again.
I mean, it's honestly not that bad of advice because, especially when the other team has to blow so many resources to stop you that first time, Delta Fox just had to blindly face check because it got low, and then because of the great flanks that they had, especially coming in with that TP advantage, they were able to pick it off. Now they get the Baron themselves, and we talk about how it looked like Camille was starting to have a little pressure in the split push. Won't matter that much anymore with the Baron buff helping out Renekton.
Not at all. So Baron buff is finally secured from the side of eUnited. So that gold lead been closed a little bit originally by Delta Fox taking their first tower of the game. This time around, it's going to be ever more increased off of the back of that 4 for 0 and the Baron going down in favor of eUnited. And now they can just reset up that 1-3-1 split push they had going on before. Send Ryze into a lane, send Renekton into a lane. Nobody on the side of Delta Fox in a 1v1 situation will be able to deal with that champion, plus the Baron buff.
Right. They do not have the TP, though, so they might not opt to go for the actual 1-3-1. Probably go for a 4-1 after they finish off this Dragon. They get their 3rd Ocean Drake of the game. So much healing.
Yeah, they got a ton of regeneration on their side now. So even if they go into an extended siege situation, they may be able to out-regenerate Delta Fox, sending people back to their fountain based off the fact they have 3 of those.
I doubt they'll outdo fountain healing. That's a little crazy.
I mean, okay, there is Home Guard kicked in at this point, so.
Right. We see that now they are rotating down to the bot lane. They're going to be able to get this for free. The side of Delta Fox is not able to contest this at all. eUnited grabs the free turret, though they are building up the
giant
the
star.
Milky Way.
The whole galaxy explodes. Does wind up sending out Fox, but it's not going to be the engage that Delta Fox needed, as there are still a plethora of Baroned up minions in their face, and eUnited contented to sit behind and continue to take pot shots off with that Varus in the backline. 3-0 and 2. Definitely struggled all throughout the lane phase, but as soon as they opened up into that mid lane, it was Shinon that was on the receiving end of the pain and punishment.
I feel like there's going to be a bunch of nerds talking to me about how the Milky Way is not even like that big of a galaxy, and they're going to tell me what the biggest galaxy is and what I should use now as a example when they shoot a giant one down a lane.
You're looking at me like I'm going to tell you what the biggest galaxy is.
I mean, I said nerds, Tom.
I know, that's why I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm a cool kid.
You confused me. eUnited continuing to group up. They are, in fact, in that 1-3-1, like you said. They don't have the TP, so they need to be a little careful as they see they are starting to get engaged on in the mid lane. Looks like they're going to try and disengage this one. Zazel caught out. He's dropping pretty low, but the redemptions come in. They're not able to actually pick up any kills on the side of Delta Fox quite yet, as Fox is actually caught off to the side.
Fox is caught off to the side. A lot of damage winds up going down, but Fox will be the first one to fall. The Camille on the backside, in the meantime, has eviscerated the Renekton, and now with the flash forward and the slow, Tom Kench and the Varus are going to jump over the wall, but that leaves Gilius all but for dead, as he's going to wind up going down to Grigny there. So that's a little bit of an overextension by eUnited in that situation. Frees up some room for Delta Fox.
Right, we were talking about the fact that they don't actually have the teleport to collapse into that fight, and when your Ryze is down the bottom and your Renekton's on the top, you don't really have a strong front line, so the Shinon just opened up with the Jin ultimate, started slowing members down, and then Delta Fox collapsed. It was a good attempt by Fox to collapse into that fight and get a flank off, but they just turned onto him and finished him off, and Brandini was winning the 1v1 against Renekton the whole time. So a really bad decision by eUnited there to split up with their Baron buff as opposed to going into a 4-1 or something.
Well, now it's Delta Fox getting some much-needed gold, investment gold that has been left on the map. They got the mid lane tower, tier 2. That was just their second tower. Bottom lane tower may not actually go down to Demonte, as we just see Tom Kench bringing his buddy Varus in the bottom lane. So only one tower goes off the back of that fight from eUnited's little overextension in the middle.
Yeah, but they got to be pretty happy about the fact that they're able to be wasting eUnited's Baron buff. The fact that they basically only lost 1-2 turrets for it, despite how bad that play started where they lost that big mid lane fight. They're able to hold on, stem the bleeding. It is still about a 6k gold lead, 7k gold lead, so they're in a hole, but there's still a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Hoping this Camille can keep coming online, start pressuring that Renekton really hard. It's
like they're trying to dig their way out of the hole. They're trying to find another way out, but it's very, very difficult. And like you did say, that eUnited, they still have some advantages. The Baron buffs have worn off on their side, but they still have forward pressure on the map. They still have large gold leads that are transitioning into large item advantages. The Renekton has now picked up a Guardian Angel, so even if the Camille's able to pick him off on the side, he will have 2 lives she has to burn through. Camille herself has only been able to complete the Titanic Hydra as of now, in addition to the Trinity Force. Now she's starting to build tanky, but it will be a little bit of a while before that gold finally comes through for her. You have 2 supports on their side. They have a Karma and an Ivern, where if they do want to get in one of those fortuitous fights, or Delta Fox can keep one of those carries alive for a very long time.
Right, and with no major neutral objectives available on the map, we see that eUnited's kind of just roaming around, hoping to bump into somebody, pick them off while they get a little bit of vision control. Give the Renekton some space to push in, because the Camille does not feel comfortable walking up while she has no vision in her jungle, really. Is actually able to spot Gilius moving around, so just a little bit. Now she's losing it. Goodbye, Ward.
No, both of these junglers do have the Tracker's Knife, so vision control will be something that they look to contest. Decent amount of it from eUnited's side. Got pretty much all of Delta Fox's jungle all warded up. Like you said, waiting to try to pick somebody out if they step forward just a little bit too far, but they have had a decent amount of forward pressure from that Baron buff, from the fact that they have this gold advantage, so good job on them keeping that vision available. The Elder Dragon will be the next one spawning in about a minute. Baron will be spawning shortly after that one. So very wisely prioritizing that bottom side, since that Dragon will be up first.
Right, and the scary thing though is if Delta Fox actually contests 5v5, I'm not sure, despite being down a lot of gold, if they're really that much weaker. The Renekton is basically not too much of a threat. Even if he gets onto Shinon, there's going to be so many shields coming in that unless the Gilius is there to help him out, who does have a decent chunk of damage, him alone will not be able to be much of a threat onto the back line of Delta Fox, whereas on the flip side, Camille is a huge threat to the back line of eUnited.
All right, once you throw down that Octagon, there's no escape. Hello, Gilius.
Meet her inside the Octagon.
No one wants to meet Camille inside the Octagon. They're forced to meet Camille inside the Octagon, contractually obliged.
I don't know. Maybe they should read that before they sign it next time.
Renegotiate their contract.
Right.
I will not enter octagons that are mislabeled as hexagons.
Other way around, you mean?
Oh, yeah. I will not enter hexagons mislabeled as octagons.
Right.
That's why I'm not a nerd. Did it backwards. The eUnited continuing to apply pressure onto the bottom side of the map, continuing to deny vision, in addition to keeping up vision of their own. They have spent Licorice up to the top side because there has been a wave kind of pushing on against them over there, but that's what you mentioned now, that Brandini has completed a couple of items for himself. It'll be a little bit more difficult for that Renekton to kind of be as much of a threat in a split push, let alone as much of a threat in some of these fights as Fox.
Yeah, stole it by himself.
I don't think I've seen this move before.
I mean, Ryze is kind of crazy late game, able to deal a ton of single target damage as well as get the shield to defend himself. So, oh, he stole it!
Shinon steals the Elder Dragon off of the Jin W. So you don't solo it.
Oh my god, did the blue ward see it in time? Because they ended up putting a little bit of vision into know when to shoot it, and then the fact that Gilius was not actually there because they were trying to bait it all, not actually able to get anything, and now Licorice is getting collapsed on, forcing Zay's little ult up there to protect him. Gotta get another look at that steal.
Yeah, I mean, they have no dragons, so it's not the best Elder Dragon, but they deny a key global objective, and with 3 Ocean Drakes, that would have been contesting for Fountain Regeneration at that point.
Right. And more importantly, of course, is the true damage burn that they'd have, because Baron's coming up soon after. They can use it to burn down the Baron. They can pressure a lot harder with it. Maybe Camille can't win her 1v1 as easily. Stuff like that start being huge concerns. But now, Delta Fox denies all that and gets it a little bit of it for themselves.
I'm just still shocked that that worked. The Jin W does a decent amount of damage, but I mean, there was Gilius came around the corner.
I think he was in range
smite.
for a smite for sure.
Yeah, that was. I was first impressed the fact that Rise was able to solo it like that. Rise does stupid Rise things in the late game, and apparently that's one of them. And then they steal it away, and now eUnited, they're just kind of waiting out this buff, which means that all because of Shine on Steel, they've lost their forward vision, they're losing minion pressure on the map, nobody wants to go down and deal with the Camille who's trying to pressure out that bottom side, and now they're giving up pressure to Delta Fox, who with this Baron buff on the map, it could have been lights out if eUnited were able to seal the deal off of that Elder Dragon and then take the Baron, because Delta Fox would have had to fight them or just give it up. So much has been given up just off of one steal.
See how important neutral objectives can be in the mid and late game. Buying Delta Fox even more time, getting the gold lead back closer to even, and ultimately stalling this game out, which is exactly what their comp needs. They are pretty strong in the late game, and Camille is still only at 3 items when you think about it. She has 2 more full items to complete and already 40 minutes into the game.
Second longest average game time in the North American Challenger Series. That's Delta Fox. Their wins usually last about 42 minutes, and this Baron being chunked down to about half of his health. Daisy winds up coming out, tanking up a couple of the CC and skill shots coming out from eUnited. This is Delta Fox now, flexing maybe a little bit too much, but mostly buying time for Brandini, who on the bottom side of this map with his Ranuan's Omen, with his Ninja Tabby, able to go toe-to-toe with Licorice, although Licorice does have a second life for himself with that Guardian Age.
Right, and Delta Fox really does have a pretty awful Baron team comp in terms of being able to burn it down. As we take another look at how they got this Elder Dragon.
He's right there for the smite.
He didn't fight it.
719.
It was a pretty big Jin W, but whew, he was at least level 16 then. He could outsmite that. So a big mistake on the side of eUnited, not able to secure that. And Delta Fox, the Baron buff or the Dragon buff has worn off now. I'm not going to have that on their side anymore, but it did stall out a fair amount of time for them and allow them to grab that bot inner or bot outer turret. So pretty huge swing right there.
Yeah, so you see a okay amount of gold going in favor of Delta Fox, but now, like you said, the Elder Dragon burn aspect of the dragon no longer on those champions. eUnited feels a little bit safer re-pressuring on the map. And something we haven't actually seen all too much is now that this game has gone on past the 40-minute mark, definitely Varus going for the full lethality build does have the fully completed Muramana. So now those auto attacks coming in from Varus are going to be a bit more powerful. Those Qs are going to be a bit more powerful. The recall is not going to go through. China just really likes sniping things with that Jin W.
I mean, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
He's had pretty good accuracy so far this game with it.
I'd say so.
They haven't got a ton of picks, but he's hit some pretty key ones. So Brandini's going to pick up the red buff here. I don't think he was trying to go over the wall, but I hope he wasn't trying to go over the wall.
Lag. Everything can be blamed on lag.
Everything can be blamed on lag, except for going for slow Barons, which Delta Fox's team comp, like I was saying, is horrible at because Jin is one of the worst AD carries at it. You have Aurelion Sol, not a great mid lane for it. Ivern, not good at all for it. So just generally speaking, I mean, he does have good control in terms of the plants that he can put up, but you don't burn it down very quickly. So
I feel like Delta Fox should not try to rush down Baron if they keep Brandini on the bottom, but they are okay at keeping their health bars up while they go to test a sort of Baron attempt. So if they go on to Licorice here, Brandini going to flash away as Fox. They wind up using the Realm Warp. The hookshot goes to the wall, does not go over it, and Brandini, he just gets melted by late game Rise damage.
Right, that was a pretty good CC chain on the side of Fox, and Licorice are able to lock up Brandini, and then you see about, I think it was 1,200 damage Rise combo coming in there, finishing off the Camille. And now with the 4v5 power play, they're going to hopefully try and get something done around the Baron pit or start opening the base up. Looks like it's going to be the Baron.
I believe the Ionians have a saying for that in this game. Balance in all things.
Never heard that before.
It's Baron, though, taking a lot of damage. We'll see if Shinon can snipe it out. He's not even anywhere close. So eUnited going to pick up a Baron all off the back of picking off that Camille.
And this time they do have their teleport available on the Renekton. We'll need to see what they choose to do with their lane setups this time around. The 1-3-1 is an option, but I don't think you necessarily want to leave Renekton isolated alone versus the Camille. That time it worked out because they had the Rise port over, but you don't necessarily need to go for that. Maybe you can just push down the base with a 4-1 or something like that. But they have a lot of options, and none of them is clearly the right call now that they have the TP advantage available, or TP available.
eUnited, last time they had this Baron buff, pushed a little bit too far. They wanted to get themselves caught out into a situation they should have not necessarily been in to begin with. But we have seen them do some decent ward control into bottom side jungle, being able to kind of deny Delta Fox from being able to push forward. And they did that to set up the Elder Drake. If they didn't get it sniped away by Shinon, that might have been the curtain call for them on the side of Delta Fox. Whereas eUnited, now they have the opportunity to basically do it over. They got a do-over at this point. They've been able to keep up a very solid gold lead. We're getting to the point where late game item builds are still sort of being finished. Camille herself has not picked up her last items, has 2 pieces for a Guardian Angel and then an empty slot on herself. Shinon has not completed his last item as an AD carry, whereas on the side of eUnited, they still have a little bit of that gold advantage in the fact that they have a fully itemized mid lane, or a fully itemized AD carry, but they have to be a little bit careful being kicked out by Delta Fox here, having to use the Tahm Kench and the flash away as well.
Oh, Tom, this is painful to watch for me.
Is it?
So the Renekton split push bot lane with the Rise the entire time as the top wave pushed against them, basically wasting Baron buff time. Realizing that they made that mistake, eUnited then decides to TP the Renekton into the wave top that was pushing against them, which signals to Delta Fox, hey, we can't fight if you start. So what do? They open up with the Jhin ult, forcing them out of the mid lane, and now the Renekton is finally pushing in the top lane as their Baron buff continues to stall out. Painful stuff coming as a former coach.
Well, if you were a League of Legends doctor and you had to prescribe something for the pain that eUnited is causing right now, what is it that they should have done?
Thomas is way too abstract of a question for my puny brain to handle.
What should have eUnited done instead of utilizing that teleport?
4-1 normally or go 1-3-1. Don't do a weird 3-2 TP into the top lane to get a wave pushing. I don't know.
All right, well, your Milky Way galaxy has come back, Mark. His Aurelion Soul not going to get the stun on Licorice.
Not big enough that time. Need the bigger galaxy. Milky Way too small.
Like they said, it's not the size of the galaxy, it's how you use it. But they're not going to be forcing a stun on the Licorice there. He does want to getting a tower down for himself, so take that, Coach Mark. They get a tower.
Right, but they still haven't cracked the actual inhibitor line yet, which is the most important thing for them to do. The game continues to stall out, and it's getting to the point where a lot of people are starting to get full build. As Gilius gets a little bit caught out here, they're able to turn it back onto Brandini. He gets his GA pop quickly.
GA goes down for Brandini. The redemption coming out. Is it going to heal him up in time? It will. The shields come out from Ivern as well. Now they blocked up Fox in the front line. He's taking tower damage. Zazel has to gobble him up, and Zazel, a lot of gray health on him. Licorice is also burned down fairly low. Shinon had used the curtain call in that fight already, so there's not going to be any sort of dissuading ultimate. The Baron buff is timing out on the last remaining members from the side of eUnited. Just about 20 or so seconds left on that one. Could be just one last wave of minions, but Delta Fox, they've lost their Guardian Angel. They've held on to their base.
Right, there's going to be one more push coming in here. The Baron buff is basically out. This is the last wave for eUnited to try and get something done, but it looks like Delta Fox will be able to hold on to this turret. A little bit too much of a front line here, and the Baron buff is out.
Baron buff gone, definitely still up there, sniping away Daisy, but she barely feels that as a scratch. Is half HP left on that inhibitor tower from the side of Delta Fox, and this is eUnited's problem. We said, hey, last time they needed to force down around Baron. They waited really, really long. They had a long Nocturne composition that eventually dove people and took a Baron fight and then a Baron off of that. This time around, they've gotten 2 Barons. They've lost an Elder Dragon, and they still can't close the game.
Right, and even though the lead has quote-unquote grown to 10K, it really doesn't matter that much anymore. Your Ryze is not getting any stronger. Your Varus is not getting any stronger. Your Renekton is not getting any stronger. Whereas on the flip side, we're talking about how Camille still has a full item to go. And it's just going to get worse and worse for eUnited. They still have a lot of map advantage where they have everything down but the inhibitor turrets. Whereas on the flip side, you see that Delta Fox has quite a few turrets to push through if they ever do want to fight, aside for the one in the mid lane. So they have a little bit extra breathing room just in terms of map position, but they are slowly getting caught up to here by Delta Fox.
Delta Fox, as you mentioned, basically couple of item components away from being full build on everybody. Aurelion Soul completed his full build. Jhin needs to just finish that Zeal. Camille, you mentioned, has an empty item slot. She's holding a potion in right now. Even Ivern, the only thing he needs to do is upgrade his jungle item. Could potentially be going for that Cinder Hulk or something along those lines. But everybody from the side of Delta Fox creeping up to the mid lane. They want to try to get a catch on to Gilius. Not going to wind up happening as he will just propel himself out of that. This time around, Fox is doing this again.
Gotta watch the Jhin W this time. Unable to get it as Grigney's now in the middle of the pit. He's going to get focused down by the entirety of eUnited.
Tried to jump in and get the smite onto that one, but it's not going to work. Daisy gets gobbled up. Grigney follows shortly after that one. eUnited this time are able to get that Elder Dragon.
Right, and it's a little interesting of a call by Grigney to go in there alone to try and steal that Elder Dragon. The fact that we've seen eUnited struggling to crack the base, you don't necessarily need to give away a kill there. I mean, even if they get the Elder Dragon, maybe that's finally enough to push them over, but they couldn't do it with Baron buff. I would have rather have seen them either completely fight that Elder Dragon as a 5v5 or sack it and do something else. Giving up the single kill now just gives them 40 more seconds to make a play down and try and end this game.
That Galaxy's just not hitting anything.
Yeah, he's not quite riding it in far enough, and I mean, it can be a little scary in a 4v5, but I don't know. I'm not saying take them all the time, but here eUnited is going to make an aggressive play onto the bot side of the map here.
Yeah, looks like they got into Brandini. They repel off from Gillies, and they got Shine On. So now the AD carry is down. The Hextech ultimatum is out, but so are the remaining members of Delta Fox. Brandini's going to wind up getting gobbled up, spit out, and shut down. And it looks like that's going to be eUnited now with 4 members down from the side of Delta Fox. They got an Elder Dragon burn. They got minions in the base. It looks like they are going to take the win.
Right, I mean, there's only Demonte left alive for Delta Fox, and Space Dragons aren't the best at defending 1v5, so it looks like this is going to be a game in favor of eUnited. A long game, took a little bit longer than it really should have. Going for a couple more kills here, feel a little bit better about themselves. Now they get the ace in a 50-minute game that eUnited ends up winning to take the series 2-0.
Well, I guess slow and steady wins the race is kind of one way you can describe that one. eUnited had a lot of advantages in the earlier stages of that game, but it took them a very long time to dance around the Baron pit and to finally capitalize on something.
It was a pretty scrappy game for the most part. We saw a lot of focus around the top side as both teams that kind of drafted team comps that really relied on controlling what the other team is going to do up there. You don't want the Renekton snowballing on the Camille. You don't want the Camille getting out of control. And despite a pretty good plan by eUnited, they ended up giving a lot of kills to the Camille, so she didn't fall behind as she should have. And then after that, despite that not going well, eUnited did build up a gold lead before struggling to really find a way to use the neutral objectives to close the game out.
Well, that's one thing they did do is they did have a gold lead that they could fall back on. So while they were still kind of struggling to bait out the Baron and try to find the way to crack the base of Delta Fox, they weren't necessarily letting Delta Fox get any advantages. When Delta Fox finally did steal away an Elder Dragon and try to do things with it, they were just taking outer towers at that point. They still weren't able to get anywhere forward pressure onto the side of the map from eUnited. So it looked like the game dragged on for so long because eUnited just continuously was on their opponent's side of the map.
Right, and I mean, there's the replay that we need to take a look at. This is the big play that let eUnited grab a stranglehold on this game. It was about 30 minutes into the game after a failed Baron Force attempt, where this time they're able to actually do it right away again, and then a good TP comes in from Licorice here to get behind the enemy team. They see Aurelion Sol trying to come over the wall that gets interrupted by Fox, and now Brandini's caught out in the middle. He's going to drop, and then from there it's pretty easy to chase through for the rest of the team. They get onto Shinon. He tries to flash away. The rest of the team's going to follow. Ultimately not able to get away. Gurgnay drops as well, and then that's pretty much the end of the fight there, and they're able to turn back and get the Baron. And this was really what broke the game open for eUnited, though it was a struggle after this.
Yeah, when eUnited finally were able to get that chase down over towards the Baron pit area, they were able to seal the deal, and this was just kind of the icing on the cake. It took maybe another 20 minutes for this fight to actually happen, but when it did, eUnited just came in and they wound up taking the win.
Right, and we see what happens when you don't have the Ivern there to help defend the base. It became all too easy for eUnited to finally crack it. They did have the benefit of having the Elder Dragon burn, which was stolen away from them previously. So obviously it's a little bit easier than normal, but after they get that huge pick on the bottom there near the bottom inhibitor, it's pretty easy to close the game out.
And much like the teleport from behind for that Baron fight, from behind us comes Licorice. I'd like to introduce you to the caster desk.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, man. So you took a 2-0 series win over Delta Fox. They were tied for first place with Tempo Storm, but now you guys have knocked them out. How's that feel?
It feels pretty good. Game 1 was a lot cleaner, and game 2 was kind of, I mean, I don't think they really had a chance to win it because we had like a stranglehold in the game, but there was a couple times where I just got caught out, and then that kind of stalled the game out for probably longer than it should have taken.
So talk to me a little bit about the Renekton counter pick that you used into the Camille. We saw that previously they had left LeBlanc up against you guys, but didn't seem to have a good plan to hold it down. Here, you guys had a very clear plan of holding the Camille down with the Renekton. So what's your experience been with that matchup?
We saw Marin pick it in LCK, and
Right.
we thought it might be a good pick, so we tried it into Camille, and it works really well early game. You actually lose like super early, like level 1 to 3, but then at 6, it opens up the option to just tower dive him because you're just a lot stronger than he is at that point. So eventually you get outscaled though, as you guys
course.
kind of saw in the game, but I think it's a really good pick into Camille.
And I think one thing that was really good to see coming out of your team was the fact that Gilius played a lot around you in that second game. The story had been, of course, the fact that Gilius and Fox work really well together. We wanted to see it come out onto other people. And here, like you said, being able to tower dive, Gilius was behind the turret like multiple times this game. So how's it working getting more integrated with Gilius?
I think it's working pretty well. Gilius is like the shot caller for our team, so he kind of tells everyone what to do, but we all have our input. So when I have a matchup like that, I'm just constantly calling him top. I'm like, we can dive, just over and over again. And then like he'll come, and then it went pretty well early game that game. I'm pretty happy with how that went.
Yeah, well, you guys were able to take down one of the #1 seeded teams going into that one. They were tied with Tempo Storm. You guys took them down 2-0. That kind of puts you in a really nice spot now at the top of the standings. Are there any teams that you're still are kind of afraid of facing off with? I mean, we're halfway through. You still got half the league to play.
I think that based on like the rosters and what we've seen so far, I think we've played the strongest teams already. So I see a pretty easy couple weeks ahead of us. So I'm pretty confident going into those.
You know we're going to quote you on that.
For sure.
All right, well, I want to congratulate you on your 2-0 victory and your jump into the first place on the standings. Licorice, thanks for joining the desk, and thank you for the interview.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, guys, we've got 2 series under our belt, but that means there's still 1 more on the docket for tonight. In just a few minutes, we're going to catch up with Big Gods Jackals versus Team Gates, so don't go anywhere. Delta Fox has a Camille. eUnited are playing straight into it as they continue to push down that top lane. First Tower Blood goes down in their favor. They pick up a kill onto Ivern. A teleport being channeled. Actually, Camille's going to come in and finish off Fox. The redemption comes out. They're trying to keep him alive. Shinon is in danger of being sunned up by Tom Kench. Has to flash away. Everybody's chasing on to Jin, and they will pick up a kill. Grigny now being forced to flash out, but he will go down. Brilliant Souls in the backline dealing with a Tom Kench, but Shinon's going to get the Realm Warp on top of him. Grigny will fall on their front line. Fox is going to be charging down on the Shinon, and that snipe kill will come out from Deathly.
Here, eUnited is going to make an aggressive play onto the bot side of the map here.
Yeah, looks like they got into Brandine. They repel out from Gillies, and they got Shinon. So now the AD carry is down. The Hextech ultimatum is out, but so are the remaining members of Delta Fox.